2019, and this is Globespan 24x7 Week in Review. My name is Shakima Day. We'll take a look at some of the major stories for the week beginning Monday, September 9 to Friday, September 13, 2019. Former Attorney General Anil Nandlal and his predecessor Basil Williams on Monday butted heads as the case for Nandlal's application, which is seeking an order for cabinet and government to resign, was called before Chief Justice Roxanne George in the High Court. The details in this report. The case was called before Chief Justice Roxanne George at the Georgetown High Court earlier today. Nandlal moved to the courts, filing an order compelling the Granger-led coalition government and cabinet to resign since the successful passage of the no-confidence motion on December 21, 2018. Nandlal is also seeking a conservatory order restraining government and cabinet from meeting, making decisions, or performing the functions of the cabinet in accordance with and pursuant to Article 106(6) of the Constitution of Guyana. During the hearing, the AG told the Chief Justice that Nandlal's order was merely an abuse of process. Commenting on the statements made, Nandlal told the reporters that the comment was an atrocious contention.
To get a government to obey the clear language of the Constitution. It is unfortunate that the citizens of this country have to resort to this kind of extreme in getting a government simply to comply with the Constitution.
Nandlal stated that a court order is the last resort of the opposition for government to remove itself from office.
And this is the level to which we have descended. And rather than the Attorney General come here and concede as the principal legal advisor under the Constitution of the government of Guyana, he comes here and says that it is an abuse of process.
What do you respond to that?
It's an atrocious contention. He should be coming here asking the court apology and going back to get his cabinet to resign in compliance with the Constitution. He comes here with a straight face and says that we are trying to abuse the process of the court, whereas all we are trying to do is to get constitutional compliance, which is the law of the land.
Meanwhile, the Attorney General stood firm on his comments, stating that it is merely the same arguments being repeated.
The CCJ rejected it, clearly said that the government remains in a different mode, an interim government and all that. So it's a waste of the court's time, the court's resources.
Both parties will return to court on September 30 after completing their submissions. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day. Kumal Chand, head of the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union, says that the coalition government has to take full responsibility for the current state of Guyana's sugar industry, which is showing constant decline ever since the closing of several major estates. More in this report. In an interview with this newscast, Chand stated that the Granger-led coalition government should own up to their actions for placing Guyana's sugar industry in the current state it's in. According to Chand, government has been failing to improve the efficiency and output of the sugar estates in Guyana.
What we know, very little is done. No major work is done to put these estates in a proper functional position. What they are doing are mere remedying some minor issues, but some big issues they are not paying attention to.
The Gahu head stressed that because the underlying issues of the industry are not being addressed, the remaining sugar estates are underperforming.
And that is where we have the problem. That is why we see production in the 3 estates that they have operational. The production is falling every year, far from reaching the 140 target. It's not ascending year after year, since they promised that they will move into the production of 140,000 tons from these 3 estates.
He noted that the production of the estates have declined for the past 2 years. If this trend continues, Chand said, Guyana will no longer have a sugar industry.
If it continues and it is not arrested, to put back these estates, to produce according to its capacity, its factory output, the workforce you have, then you could very well have a situation where they will say that, look, These estates are not doing well, and we have to close them.
The sugar industry in Guyana was once referred to as the country's backbone until the coalition government announced the closure of 4 of the main estates. The remaining estates were scheduled for privatization, but to date, this plan is at a standstill. Plans are now afoot to convert the estates into a sugar museum and heritage park. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day. We'll tell you next that government recently commissioned 2 new schools in the Upper Mazaruni district in Region 7 with the aim of improving access to education for indigenous communities. These schools will benefit hundreds of children in various communities on that region. Here's that report.
A new school was commissioned in Camarang, which will cater for almost 170 students at a tune of $30 million, while another at Purima, which is 90% complete, will cost $27.7 million. Addressing the ceremony was Education Minister Nicolette Henry, who said that the government, through the Ministry of Education, aims to provide equal educational opportunities to all Guyanese.
Therefore, schools are being built both in the coastland as well as in the hinterland. This, of course, is no easy task, but the wheel would have already been set in motion. And today we are gathered to witness the commissioning of yet another school in the hinterland. And this school is none other than Camarang Primary School.
She also expressed her confidence that the effort being put into eliminating the gaps between hinterland and coast will continue to produce increased student performance from hinterland regions as seen in the last few years. Urging parents, teachers and students to maintain the newly constructed structure at Camarang, Minister of State Don Hastings Williams noted that the building was comfortable and conducive to learning.
I just want to remark saying that education is very, very important. And because of that, our government had budgeted billions of dollars towards the education sector. We also saw an increase in our regional budget towards the education sector. And so you have a spanking new building today, something to be proud of.
Regional Chairman Gordon Bradford spoke to the commitment of several stakeholders to ensure that development is set in motion.
Because what is happening in Camarang today will be happening also in Mbaimadai, in Kako, in Purima this afternoon. Again, we're going to be commissioning another school similar to this one. And most importantly, in a part of our region where our children doesn't have access to education, your regional democratic council, and by extension your government, will be constructing a new primary school just like this one for the first time in the history of our country in Iterengbang, where there's no school.
For Globespan 24x7 News, Abel Harris.
The failure to set up an oversight committee to manage Guyana's Natural Resources Fund, also known as the Sovereign Wealth Fund, will see the current government not being able to spend monies acquired through the new found oil and gas sector. We'll find out more in this report filed on Tuesday.
Finance Minister Winston Jordan says that this is a result of the People's Progressive Party and the Private Sector Commission not putting forward the names of their nominees. The minister said if government could not get the 21-member committee set up, the account would be opened in keeping with the law and the monies would be received.
And it will be parked there until we can get the parliament going, because parliament is heavily involved in the withdrawal process from the Natural Resource Fund.
However, Jordan does not see government not being able to spend the monies from the Sovereign Wealth Fund will hugely affect certain projects and programs.
As I said, we'll open the account and park the money in there until we get a new parliament in place.
That will take some months.
Yeah, well, that will take some months. So you'll have money but you can't spend.
The minister noted that he is not in agreement with opposition leader Barrett Jaglio's approach that all revenues should first be deposited into the consolidated fund.
Essentially a black hole, and an indeterminate entity or person will determine how much will come out to go into the natural resource fund. Our model is everything goes to the natural resource fund. So there's a transparent process. You know how much is in that fund, and then there's a detailed process about how it can be withdrawn from the fund.
The Private Sector Commission has since written Jordan saying that their delayed response was due to a transition in its management team and would respond later. The Finance Ministry will be hosting several workshops aimed at training officers in charge of the management of the fund. Reporting for Globespan 24x7 News, this is Abel Harris.
Another major American flag carrier has signaled its intention to begin providing direct flights between the U.S. and Guyana. JetBlue officially announced its intention to begin daily flights out of Guyana at this Kingsley Bryan report.
American airline JetBlue on Tuesday announced it is again expanding its large Latin America and Caribbean network with new non-stop service between New York's John F. Kennedy's International Airport and Georgetown, Guyana's Cheddi Jagan International Airport. Flights will operate daily on JetBlue's new A321neo aircraft beginning April 2, 2020, with seats available for purchase in the U.S. starting today. In the release, the airline's Director of Route Planning, Andrea Lasso, noted that Guyana's service introduces a diverse and undeserved destination to the JetBlue route map, which will benefit both leisure travelers as well as those visiting friends and relatives. Additionally, the report stated that the government of Guyana is delighted to welcome the services of JetBlue to Guyana, and this is according to Guyana's Minister of Public Infrastructure, David Patterson. According to the release, Patterson also noted that this agreement with JetBlue is timely and comes on the heels of continued and sustainable growth in several sectors of the economy, including service, tourism, mining, and oil and gas. JetBlue's newest route will also connect to New York's Guyanese American community, the largest in the U.S., with Guyana's capital city, making the connections between friends and family easier and closer than ever. Guyana becomes the fourth country in South America that JetBlue serves and grows the airline's presence in Latin America and the Caribbean, where it is a leading carrier serving nearly 40 destinations. The new non-stop flight between New York City and Georgetown will be made possible by the A321neo's extended range and fuel efficiency. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
First Lady Sandra Granger joined top government and company officials of Exxon Mobil to officially welcome Guyana's first oil production vessel, which she says will bring renewed hope to Guyana. Let's take a look. It was an evening of much pomp and ceremony as top officials of government and U.S. oil giant Exxon Mobil and its partners, Hess and CNOC, celebrated the official arrival of the Liza Destiny, Guyana's first ever floating production, storage and offloading oil vessel. The event, held at the Guyana Marriott Hotel last evening, saw a celebration of Guyana's unique cultures. Dubbed the godmother of the vessel, First Lady Mrs. Sandra Granger, while delivering brief remarks, expressed her hope that the vessel will not only benefit Exxon Mobil and investors, but also Guyanese.
And I would like to hope for the Liza Destiny, the partners and the crew, that it will bring us all good things we anticipate. Not only the profits and return on investment for the Exxon and its partners, but also for the people of Guyana, and in particular our children, a better quality of life, sustainable development, and everything from which good oil will flow. I would still like to speak a toast. And so I would like to ask you to join me in raising your glasses to that beautiful woman, that beautiful girl child, Liza Destiny, Guyana's hope and aspiration. Thank you.
Country manager of Exxon Mobil Guyana, Rod Henson, said that the event not only commemorates the arrival of the Liza Destiny, but also the strong partnership shared between Guyana and Exxon Mobil.
Exxon Mobil has been in Guyana since the 1940s in our downstream business with service stations selling fuel and lubricants. And although we're no longer in that business here, this year marks 20 years for our upstream business, helping Guyana find and develop its petroleum natural resources. We have so much to celebrate, and the path in front of us is bright. I believe this partnership, though, has its best and most productive decades ahead.
Henson stated that Guyana's bright future is built on a strong foundation.
It's an interesting journey. It has been an interesting journey since our exploration activities initially started in 1999. There have been some challenges, and there's been a lot of uncertainty, but the perseverance and dedication has paid off. Our geoscientists and engineers have pushed technology safely and responsibly, have unlocked the resources here in Guyana.
Meanwhile, head of the Department of Energy, Mark Bino, in his address, highlighted that the arrival of the vessel marks a historic milestone for Guyana.
It also heralds a tide of good fortune, which we must appreciate for both the magnificent engineering feat that the Liza represents and the flood of opportunities and possibilities it presents for Guyana and our people. This is a merger of the brilliant technology savvy of Exxon and its partners, married with the amazing natural resources of Guyana, and this includes its most precious resource, its people.
On July 18, the Liza Destiny departed Singapore for Guyanese waters and arrived 3 weeks ahead of schedule. The FPSO has a production capacity of up to 120,000 barrels of oil per day and an overall storage volume of 1.6 million barrels. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day. On Wednesday, we'll tell you, despite the legal challenge mounted by Superbet against the Gaming Authority of Guyana and the Guyana Revenue Authority, Chairman of the Board of the Gaming Authority, Roysdale Ford, is maintaining that the company remains non-compliant with the laws of Guyana. Kingsley Bryan filed this report.
Guyana Holding Incorporated, the company which operates Superbet, has taken the Guyana Revenue Authority and the Guyana Gaming Authority to court over their refusal to issue them a license to operate. Additionally, Superbet sought an order directed at the Gaming Authority, quashing the decision to refuse to issue to Superbet a good standing certificate on the grounds that the said decision is ultra-vires, capricious, and influenced by irrelevant considerations. However, Chairman of the Gaming Authority Board, Roysdale Ford, is maintaining that the Gaming Authority rejected these applications for a casino license due to their non-compliance.
We have informed Superbet as to the issues that we have in relation to them, their concerns in relation to their operation. We've provided them with the information, we provided them with what we consider a fair and reasonable way to have the issue resolved. They have decided that it is in their interest to proceed to court, and the matter is in court.
Ford relayed that nonetheless, the company remains in operation, pending the decision by the courts. The Gaming Authority chairman disclosed that about 140 shops are currently flying the Superbet flag. As it relates to the Sleeping Hotel that was rejected a license by the authority to operate a casino, Ford noted that the application is still under consideration.
We had a number of concerns. It was initially refused and rejected by the Gaming Authority, and our second application was made. We met with them on a number of occasions. We wrote to them, outlining to them what is the sort of information that we would need in order to make a final decision on it. We have informed them of it. We have informed the other stakeholders who have an interest in their application, and we have not yet received the information from them. They have indicated to us that they will pursue certain measures. We have not gotten the information back from them.
Ford said that the authority has bent over backwards to facilitate the application of both entities, and that the requested documentation is a prerequisite.
And not every request for further information necessarily means that there is something sinister or criminal. We sometimes just simply need clarification for information.
Ford added that the two companies are still to become compliant, since all the requested information has not been forthcoming. Director General at the Ministry of the Presidency, Joseph Harmon, relayed that the government is not involved in the process whatsoever.
This is still a matter under the Gaming Authority. The government has no role in this matter. So let me make that very clear. And in spite of what you are hearing about persons who want to speak to government ministers, the Gaming Authority has a full mandate to deal with these matters, and we support the Gaming Authority in the work which they do.
For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Trinidadian-based Massey Group on Wednesday opened its doors to its first ever mega shopping complex at the Movie Town Mall in Turkine, Greater Georgetown. During their open ceremony, Finance Minister Winston Jordan urged the company to sell more local content. We'll tell you more in this report. From lettuce to luggage, the Massey Mega Store caters for the everyday needs of Guyanese. The store opened its doors to shoppers earlier today in a lavish ribbon-cutting ceremony. The event saw the attendance of major stakeholders from Guyana and other Caribbean countries. This is the second Massey store location in Guyana. The first opened in Providence, East Bank in 2017. Massey Mega offers a unique value proposition to the Guyana market. While the Providence location delivers the traditional features of a supermarket, this new location offers a warehouse shopping experience, which spans over 34,000 square feet of a retail space with an expanded range of bulk and non-food items. Finance Minister Winston Jordan, who delivered the feature address at the event, noted that the company should be wary of their pricing strategy, as such a dynamic shopping center should cater for the working class.
Shopping must be as affordable to the average public servant as it is to the chief executive of any of the oil companies situated in Guyana.
Jordan noted that Massey stores must develop a symbiotic relationship with local producers in Guyana to provide organic and biological produce to its consumers. He noted that this will ensure that the small man is not pushed out of business.
Supermarkets must avoid becoming centers of imported products, especially those that can be readily sourced locally, whether it is bottled water, packaged roti, or sugar cake. Such actions have the effects of pushing the small man out of business, thereby aggravating the unemployment situation. It damages our cultural and culinary psyche, and of course, it leaks foreign exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, you may know, but I'm telling you, I'm a frequent user of Caribbean Airlines BW526 Georgetown to New York non-stop service. On this leg of the flight, Caribbean Airlines has introduced the sale of Trinidadian edibles. I call it pepper channel, such as pepper hard channel. I applaud this innovative marketing of Trinidadian products on a Trinidadian airline. Yet, I could not fail to observe that while Guyana has been described as the airline's cash cow, no thought was given to selling a few Guyanese products on that leg of the flight. I have been to several supermarkets and I've seen the contempt with which local products are treated. This cannot continue. We are no one's cash cow.
Chairman of Massey's Integrated Retail Business Unit, David Alfonso, highlighted that the mega store was strategically Chairman of Massey's Integrated Retail Business Unit, David Alfonso, highlighted that the megastore was strategically placed to provide Guyanese with a range of shopping options in one central location.
In addition to the wide variety of both fresh and packaged foods that you will see in the store, we also offer a wide selection of non-food items not traditionally found in a conventional supermarket. We chose to offer this range and format after careful consideration of Guyana's changing business landscape and the evolving needs of the dynamic, high-growth market here.
Both Massey shopping locations offer a loyalty program with the Massey card. Cardholders can access exclusive promotions and opportunities to earn and save by redeeming points. The store's opening hours are from Monday to Saturday, 9 hours to 2100 hours, and Sundays from 9 hours to 1800 hours. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day.
Good evening, I am Whitney Broussard with a look at your regional and international weekend review for September 9th through 13th. But first, here's the story. It has been more than a week since Hurricane Durian bashed the islands of Grand Bahama, Abaco, and other nearby islands, and residents are still counting their losses. In this light, the Consular Corps, a body formulated in 2017 to bring support and relief to victims who suffer from these unfortunate natural disasters, is calling for the support of all. Today, the Consular General of Guyana in New York, Barbara Atherley, enforced how important it is to continue the support efforts to bring relief to the islands. Persons are being asked to support this worthy cause by donating canned food items with long shelf life, feminine hygiene products, baby food, diapers in assorted sizes, and any other.
Just to let you know that the consulate for the Bahamas, they have shared with us a list of other places that can be drop-off points or donations. And we have in Queens, the United Methodist Church, 12622 150th Street, South Ozone Park. And the contact person there is Reverend Bernadette Logan. And so it's important for the persons in Queens to know that there is also a drop-off point. We will be reaching out to the Reverend Bernadette Logan to see if we can have specific days where Guyanese can go and drop off their contributions in Queens. So you will hear more about this in the coming week.
Goods that will be helpful. A donation drop-off box donations can be taken to Friends of Crown Heights Education Center at 921 Hegeman Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Hurricane Durian was the fourth named storm of 2019 North Atlantic hurricane season and the first major hurricane of the season. Durian made landfall on Sunday, September 1st, 2019 on the Abaco Islands in the Bahamas as a Category 5 hurricane, making its strongest storm to the landfall in the Bahamas. And now for your recap. An earthquake with a magnitude of 4.2 rocked Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada last Thursday morning, but there were no reports of injuries or damages. The Trinidadian-based Research Center of the University of West Indies made this statement earlier last week. It said that the quake, which occurred at 6:45 hours, was located at a depth of 84 kilometers. The quake was felt 102 km northwest of Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, and 119 km southwest of St. George's in Grenada. The SRC said it was also felt 115 kilometers northeast of Venezuela. The Canadian government said on Thursday that the Prime Minister has discussed the onslaught of Hurricane Durian on the Bahamas with the Caribbean Community CARICOM Chair and Prime Minister of St. Lucia. The Prime Minister expressed his sympathy for the loss of life and for all those affected by the destruction caused by the hurricane, mentioned in his call with the Prime Minister of Bahamas earlier in the day, and Canada's offer of 500,000 Canadian dollars in initial support and the expertise to the disaster relief effort. The Prime Minister discussed the need for innovative solutions and greater resilience to address the devastating impacts of extreme weather events felt by the Caribbean and other small islands developing states. It said that the Prime Minister underscored Canada's ongoing commitment to building back better and support for the region, noting in particular Canada's 2017 pledge of 100 million Canadian dollars for Caribbean reconstruction and climate resilience. The Bahamas government says it has suspended the crackdown on illegal migrants in the Abaco and Grand Bahama as the death toll from the passage of Hurricane Durian a week ago climbed to 45. Minister of Financial Services, Trade, Industry and Immigration, Elsworth Johnson, said that with the country presently experiencing a humanitarian crisis in the aftermath of the hurricane, strict instructions have been given to the Immigration Department that concentration is on assisting with the humanitarian efforts to rescue and save lives regardless of place of origin, nationality, or immigration status. He said further, the authorities are obligated to all and will continue to secure the country's borders, and all domestic apprehension exercise in the affected areas are suspended. Prior to the passage of the hurricane, the Bahamas had implemented a crackdown on illegal migration, particularly directed at people from Haiti. A Bahamian immigration policy requiring that all residents carry passports has led to increased raids of shanty towns and other areas with large undocumented population. Following the devastation caused by the storm, the Miami-based Family Action Network Movement, FANM, and more than 20 other groups released a letter addressed to the Bahamian Prime Minister, Hubert Minnis, from residents because they are scared to seek help because of their immigration status. And now for a look at news in Belize. Police says they have confiscated 1,210 parcels of cocaine on board an aircraft that had landed at an illegal airstrip off the coastal road south of Belize in the early hours of Monday. Police said that 6 people, including 4 from Honduras and 1 each from Mexico and Ecuador, have been held as a result of the operation. The street value of the drugs was not disclosed. The authorities said they had received prior information from the King Air 12 engine aircraft that had taken off from Venezuela and deployed officers to several of the illegal and legal aerodromes. They said that the planes were allowed to land and officers waited for other key players to appear. During the day, we received intelligence of a crackdown leaving Venezuela, said the police commissioner. As we would normally do, we mobilized members of the security force and deployed as different aerodromes landed, both legal and illegal, with the hope that the plane would land. This is according to Police Commissioner Chester Williams. And now for a look at news on the international scene. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's decision to suspend the Parliament for several weeks has been ruled unlawful by Scotland's highest civil court, setting the stage for an unusual showdown in the UK Supreme Court between the government and its opponents. Johnson's decision to shut Parliament triggered complaints from opposition lawmakers that he had been reducing the time available to them to hold the government to account over the deal to pass laws to avoid the UK crashing out of the European Union without a deal on October 31st. The UK Parliament shut down earlier this week for 5 weeks and will remain closed despite Wednesday's ruling. However, opposition and rebel lawmakers have already been largely successful in their plans to frustrate Johnson's plan to quit the EU at the end of October, passing legislation that forced the government to seek an extension to the Brexit deadline if a deal isn't agreed with the EU. For a look at news in Africa, former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe was buried in the country's National Heroes Acre Monument as a spat over his final resting place was settled. The family in a statement said that the government did not initially consult them on burial plans, but had previously insisted that the former president would be laid to rest in his hometown of Kutama. CNN reported that a memorial will be held on this Saturday, and he will be given a ceremonial send-off at the National Heroes Acre Monument on Sunday, followed by his funeral, which will be held as a private affair later at an undisclosed date. Mugabe's family had been at loggerheads with the current president of Zimbabwe over where Mugabe's funeral should take place. They wanted to bury him in his hometown, while the government insisted on the burial at the Hilltop Mountain, where the country's national heroes are laid to rest. Thousands of Zimbabweans paid their last respect to the late leader, who died in a Singaporean hospital last Friday. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has flatly denied a report that his country was spying on the U.S. A Politico report cites 3 former senior U.S. officials who says Israel was likely behind surveillance devices found near the White House. But a statement from Netanyahu's office said this was a blatant lie. There is a long-standing commitment and a directive from the Israeli government not to engage in any intelligence operations in the U.S. Israel Israel is days away from a general election. International Mobile Subscriber Identity Catchers IMSI, informally known as stingrays, were reportedly found near the presidential residence and by other sensitive sites across Washington, D.C. And at least 31 have been killed in a stampede during commemorations for the Shia holy day of Ashura in the Iraq city of Karbala, officials say. A health ministry spokesman said another 100 people were injured and warned that the death toll could rise. The stampede reportedly occurred when a pilgrim tipped while hundreds of thousands were performing a ritual. Ashura commemorates the martyrdom in a battle of Imam Hussein, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, in 680 AD. In 2005, at least 965 pilgrims were killed in a stampede over a bridge over the river Tigris in the Iraq capital of Baghdad. Witnesses said panic spread among the pilgrims over rumors of suicide bombers. And that's all for your weekend review for news in the region and around the world. I am Whitney Prasad, live from New York, back to our studio in Guyana.
We'll now tell you that Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams on Wednesday met with a visiting delegation from the Carter Center. Brett Lacey, who was a part of the delegation, relayed that the meeting focused on the laws of Guyana and their application to present circumstances in Guyana.
Hear from him about the laws of Guyana and his various arguments related to current circumstances in Guyana. So we were very happy to have this opportunity to hear from him on his perspective. And I can say from the Carter Center, we are really just here to listen. We are hoping to meet with different actors to understand everyone's perspective on current events.
The Attorney General noted that he welcomed the engagement since it allowed him to relay government's position on several pressing issues.
But of course, there were other discussions, and I think they know, they have been apprised of what the legal situation is. They know now what is the state of all the four institutions, the Parliament, the Executive, the Judiciary, and GCOM itself. And I think that they have been fully briefed.
Said a major part of the discussions focused on the aspect of overseas voting, which was duly addressed by President Carter back in 1991. On Thursday, we reported that the opposition's People's Progressive Party Civic has again highlighted its concerns over the ongoing talks at GCOM, as the party firmly believes that certain delaying tactics are being implemented. Addressing his weekly press conference on Thursday, the party's General Secretary, Bharat Jagdeo, said in light of this, his party would like to see an international presence at the country's elections body.
Before 2014, we had international staff embedded in the commission. The APNU commissioners and the chairman, Mr. Patterson, who was there, requested help from the UN. When the UN came out with a report saying no house-to-house registration, they refused the help. The UN tried to meet with them several times, they refused to meet. And until now, that offer is still here on the table. I said to the commission when I met with them that we must seek immediately to have an international presence for quality control in GCOM, because the way Mr. Lowenfield and some elements in the Secretariat are acting, you need another pair of eyes. They seem to reflect all the concerns of APNU every single day. In fact, going overboard to make their case.
The former Guyanese head of state claims that everyone wants an election, including members of the diplomatic community, the private sector, and civil society.
In spite of the international community wanting elections as soon as possible, they all say that to me. The Guyanese just tired of waiting. Everybody wants it, the private sector, everyone wants to get this over with. Their lives are on the hold. Why does this corrupt geriatric cabal wants to delay the elections?
Jack Dio restated his party's position that there should be no merger of the data from the house-to-house registration and the existing National Register of Registrants. He said that merging the data with the Register of Registrants would damage the integrity of the voters list. The opposition leader contends that there could be a swift verification process of the existing National Register through the claims and objections period. We'll now tell you that following Thursday's public meeting with the Public Utilities Commission and Guyana's telephone giant GTT, complainant Ramon Gaskin stood firm on his claim that the company should have issued a prior notice to consumers about the upcoming changes to the bill. Here are the details.
The GTT is forcing me to take services that I don't want and I don't need. That is the whole purpose of all of this thing, to force me to do what I don't want to do. And that's why they keep me in the line for 45 minutes as a senior citizen. And the supervisor told me this got something called MMG and all this nonsense. I want my original bill, the way I used to get it. Unless the PUC approves these changes, I'm saying to you, you cannot do it. The license doesn't allow you to do things unilaterally and arbitrarily. That's why you have the PUC, that's why you have the PUC Act, that's why you have a license. You cannot do things on your own just like that and come and apologize to me. I reject all these apologies, let me tell you straight, all of them. So don't worry with apologies on me.
That was Raymond Gaskin, an outspoken commentator. Gaskin had filed an official complaint with the Public Utilities Commission regarding the new billing format introduced by Guyana's leading communication service provider, GTT. Today, in a public meeting held by the PUC, GTT had a chance to address the concerns raised by Gaskin and matters relating to the issue. According to Gaskin, these changes should have been announced to the general populace prior to implementation. Mark Reynolds, Vice President of GTT's Legal and Regulatory Affairs, acknowledged this exact point, noting that it was a fault on their behalf.
Right. So in a situation as such, while we do appreciate the nature of it and the fact that there should have been note, and this is something that we apologize to Mr. Gaskin for and also to the wider public, we have been driving an educational campaign in terms to all of our customers regarding the support, the services which are to provide an outlet to get the actual particulars of the bill.
When asked by the PUC's chairperson, Della Brighton, whether sufficient research was conducted before the new system was introduced, all the answers were in the negative.
According to a letter from GT&T under the hand, I believe, of Ms. Leslie, it said that the new billing format became effective in May 2019. Is that correct? It's still. Was there sufficient notice given to the consumers as it relates to this new billing format?
In the Commission's letter to GTT, available on its website, it stated that Gaskin's bill received for the billing period May 2019 was presented in a new format. The Commission noted after examining the new bill that, on the face of it, the telephone bill does not reflect an itemized list of cellular calls and overseas calls, which would have been itemized in the previous bills, and afford consumers the ability to check and verify their activities for the preceding month. For Globespan 24x7 News, Shakima Day. Public Health Minister Waldo Lawrence stated that her government is working towards the decriminalization of suicide in Guyana. The minister made these comments during her feature address at the World Suicide Prevention Day event held recently at the National Culture Center. The minister stressed that to aid suicide prevention in Guyana, persons must throw aside their opinions and listen to persons who exhibit signs of suicidal thoughts.
If you're struggling or thinking about suicide, let me assure all of you that I will seek to have the repeal of Chapter 801-96 of the laws of Guyana, which criminalizes attempted suicide. We also have to look at those who are silent. In the words of another suicide attempt survivor, when you stop talking about your problems, she said, when you stop showing emotions or reaching out, you enter a hopeless path with no return. You need help. You realize that whenever you swore or complained, you wanted help. But when you stop acting out, your mind was already made up.
According to Chapter 80196 of the Laws of Guyana, everyone who attempts to commit suicide shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and liable to imprisonment for 2 years. Several non-governmental organizations have repeatedly called for the law to be amended, but to no avail. We'll tell you now that members of the government on Friday morning met with the chair and commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission to seek clarification on key electoral matters. Following the meeting, Minister of Public Health and PNCR Chairwoman Paula Lawrence said that from their discussions, the Commission has not yet set an elections timeline, although it has indicated plans to have elections this year.
After meeting with the chairperson and commissioners of the Guyana Elections Commission, the top PNCR official told members of the media that the commission has assured that no definitive date has yet been set for the holding of elections.
Today we were assured by the chair and commissioners that no timeline has set and that they are working to see whether they will be able to hold elections this year, given the timetable which they have and the statutory requirements which they will ensure that they abide by.
Minister Lawrence said that the visit by the governing side to the Elections Commission was to facilitate discussions on the electoral process and in what way the government can lend a hand. In the absence of parliamentary sittings, the minister said the government will examine all options to ensure the necessary funding is provided.
As our president has stated, is an important agenda item, and I'm quite certain that all of us would agree that if we are to get the results which we would like to have from GCOM and them carrying out their tasks, that if they need to have more finances, then of course we will have to ensure that we put that at their disposal.
Lawrence said the government is ready for elections, and despite the rantings of the opposition, their only interest is having a credible voters list, and this has been assured by the Commission during Friday's meeting.
But basically we were able also to put forward our case in terms of us ensuring that the list is credible, that persons be given the opportunity who were not allowed to register in the house-to-house registration, that during the claims period they will be given the opportunity to do so. We've also pressed upon GCOM to ensure that during that claims period that they take into consideration the number of persons who are still to be registered.
The PNCR chair noted that the Commission indicated that they are examining all options to ensure elections are held at the earliest time possible, but there will be no shortcuts to the process.
Indicate that they will not in any way be shortening any process as laid out in the statute, but that they're looking at the administrative aspect to see how they can work with that in terms of the deadlines and timelines.
GCOM has indicated to the governing side that all aspects of this process are being done in full compliance with the law, and the government has expressed their faith in the Commission. For Globespan 24x7 News, this is Kingsley Bryan.
Hundreds of Guyanese are still not pleased with the service the Guyana Power and Light Incorporated has been delivering for some time, and they never shy away from making this point in their conversations with each other or in their posts on social media. But the company has long complained that there are certain challenges that they cannot overcome, but are working daily to address. This point was reinforced during another stakeholder engagement it hosted at the at the Hertzmanston Lodge. Chairman of the Board of Directors, Raul Lucas, by a slip of the tongue described the company by a name Guyanese are all too familiar with and uses every time they experience a power outage.
The challenge for GPL is in the integrated network known as the Demerara-Berbice Interconnected System. The DBIS ranges from West Demerara to Molson Creek in Berbice and reaches south as far as Kururu and Timeri. GPL, a slip of the tongue is no fault of the man. GPL has 92% of its customer base in this geographic spread, which is served by 9 generating stations and 14 substations, 9 of which are in the Demerara area and 5 of which are in the Berbice area.
The GPL chairman noted that the cable that brings power from Vredenhoek to Kingston, Georgetown, was destroyed in early June and is yet to be repaired. GPL is currently experiencing a shortfall of 23 megawatts of power. According to Lucas, most of that power should be restored over the weekend. However, due to scheduled maintenance, the utility company will still be in deficit of some 18 megawatts. Lucas reported that from June 1st to August 1st, 2019, there have been 772 blackouts for those who are connected to the Demerara and Berbice interconnected system. The People's National Congress Reform says that the APNU-AFC government has made significant strides in improving the local judicial system while restoring its independence. Addressing a weekly press conference at the Congress Place on Friday, Minister of State and PNCR Executive Dawn Hastings-Williams said constitutional matters are being dealt with expeditiously.
Decisions of our courts are being honored. Gone are the days when the court ruled in favor of a citizen and the state refused to honor the court's decision, as was the practice under the lawless PPPC. Guyanese are assured that this coalition government respects the ruling of our courts and will ensure justice is done.
The statement is being made at a time when the coalition government has been accused of showing blatant disrespect for the Constitution of Guyana, particularly as it relates to the successful passage of a no-confidence motion for which they have challenged legally. The opposition People's Progressive Party Civic has maintained that the government's attempt to challenge the vote of no confidence speaks to the APNU-AFC's disrespect for the law. Nevertheless, Minister Hastings-Williams claims that the APNU-AFC government has restored law and order and the independence of judiciary, while the PPPC has abused its independence. The PNCR executive says that the use of the judicial system to get power is not new and would not succeed. According to her, the people of Guyana are aware of the control that the PPPC allegedly exercised over the judiciary while they were in power, but claimed times have changed. And that has brought us to the end of the Globespan 24x7 News Week in Review. Remember to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest on news in Guyana, the Caribbean, and around the world. I am Shakima Day, wishing you a safe and productive week ahead. On behalf of our news and technical team, until next time, do have a pleasant rest of the evening.